Hi, welcome to a special edition of In the Know. Today we are talking about pool safety, and joining us to talk about pool safety is Chris Knoblauch. Chris is a forensic investigator with the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office, so thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. On behalf of Dr. Preston and everybody in our office, I'd like to thank you all for having us here today to talk about this very important issue.
Yes, it is an extremely important issue. We kind of discussed that this kind of falls into the area of a preventable tragedy of sorts. So tell us what you mean by that. What does that mean?
Well, you know, I think it's important to remember that we as death investigators, we handle this, here in St. Tammany handle about 2,500 deaths a year, and a good number of those, of course, are natural deaths, but there are a limited number of those that are not natural deaths, that are very tragic in nature. And drowning, of course, is one of those tragic events that we handle. Fortunately, not too many a year here in St. Tammany, but overall, if you look across the country, we're talking about almost one a day, 350, 360 a year.
Wow.
Of children that drown in swimming pools. But what I mean, I guess, by a preventable tragedy is that if we take the basic steps of safety as it relates to pools, we could potentially have a 100% preventable accident here.
Right. So let's talk about sort of, you talked about how there's nearly one drowning a day. So what are some of the steps? Where would someone start? Let's just start from the fact that, say, hey, we have a pool in our backyard, or the neighbor has a pool in their backyard. What are some steps that people can take to sort of build on their prevention and make it a safe area for children and adults alike who might not be able to swim, who might not be great swimmers?
Right, and there are a lot of adults who can't swim.
Right.
I have a pool at my house, and it amazes me how many times company comes over and I'll say, you want to get in the pool? No, I can't swim. And it's like, but
right.
You know, I grew up swimming, so it's something that's different. It's unfathomable to me that somebody doesn't know how to swim, but it's very, very common.
Right.
I think that first of all, it's important to remember that this is the leading cause of death in children between the ages of 1 and 4.
Wow.
That is not an intentional death. In other words, an unintentional death. This is the #1 cause of death for kids between the ages of 1 and 4. And those things are always accidents, and they are preventable. But to talk about drownings in general, it's important to remember that even though you have a lot of people in the pool, these events are lightning fast. They're somewhat silent, or I've heard more and more times as a paramedic responding to a drowning where people say, we didn't hear a thing, we just looked down and that child was at the bottom of the pool. Right. And that's tragic, because there might have been 10 or 15 people in the pool and more on the deck, but nobody was paying attention to the pool itself. About 72% of these drownings actually happen in residential pools versus some type of a commercial or a public pool.
Right.
And I think that's something that's important to remember.
And what you said about how it's silent, I think a lot of people have been conditioned. We've been conditioned by what we see in the movies or on television shows of people flailing around and gasping for air, and that's not necessarily the case. And like you said, the more people in a pool, the odds might even go up that a drowning could occur. Right. And so what is something that you can do when you're in that setting with a group of people, or you're having a pool party? What's something important that people should sort of remember to do in that situation?
Well, I think first of all, you have to understand that this is a multi-step process as far as trying to secure your pool, make your pool more safe year-round. Because you know, we had talked a little bit in the interim here about how it is kind of late in the pool season, and kids are swimming now, but in the next couple months it's going to get cooler and the pools are not going to be utilized as much. But these pools are there 365 days a year. Right. So when we're talking about these kind of tragic deaths, it's little children who wander away, wander out of the house, and are able to get into the pool somehow and can't swim. And again, these things happen very silently and quietly and quickly. So, I think yeah, what you're saying, yeah, and the pool being there all the time, anytime a child can fall into a hole, the same thing goes with a pool. They can fall into a pool. So what would you suggest to, say, the homeowner? Well, first of all, you have to understand that a pool is much more attractive to a child than a hole in the ground. So they're going to be more attracted to that automatically. They've seen people play in the pool before. They wander out there. They may just stumble, they may try to touch the water, and they go forward into the pool. So I think the first thing that we need to think about is barriers, and barriers are very important. talk about barriers being four-sided, being on all four sides of your pool. And you know, a lot of people, they say, well, you know, I've got four sides to my fence in my yard, and so and that's great. It protects your pool, or protects people that are outside your property from the pool, but it doesn't protect that child that wanders out of your back patio door and wanders towards the pool. So it's very important to have four sides of barriers around your pool. One of the things about those barriers is they should be at least 4 foot high. And if you go to www.poolsafely with an L, EY.gov, there's some diagrams and some suggestions for how you should place a barrier around your pool. But one of the things that comes up most often is they need to have a self-latching latch, so that when that door closes, it automatically slams and the lock engages. If you don't, that child can just as easily, if that gate's open, walk around and open that door and get into the pool area. So that's a super important deal. If you have the ability to cover your hot tub or your pool with a cover, that's another good one. Alarm systems, if you can get an alarm system that's a floating system, anytime that the top of the water is disturbed, that'll an ear piercing. I've got one, so I know it's an ear piercing. It wakes you up for sure. And it's a remote system where the actual floating device is in the pool, but the alarm and the alerting device is actually in your home. So if somebody was to wander outside and disturb the top of the water, you would be alerted to that fact. And so you could easily check the pool and potentially save a life. Alarm systems are a great thing to have in your pool if you can. But most importantly, these borders, or these barriers around the pool is probably the most important thing I can think of.
So it sounds like, you know, the more layers you have, the greater the chances you're going to prevent an accident. That's
correct. The more layers you have around the pool itself, physical barriers or physical layers around the pool, but then we also want to get into some other aspects. So if we look at, if in the case that you have a party going on, or a pool party, or there's kids over swimming, we need to designate somebody to be a pool watcher. And that's the person that can't be participating in the rest of the party. Can't be talking on the telephone, can't be participating in the party atmosphere, can't be drinking alcohol. Their one job is it's kind of like a designated driver. They're a designated pool watcher. And so they watch the pool and they scan the bottom of the pool and watch the activity that's going on in the pool throughout the party. I think that's probably one of the number one things as far as having a party itself. I think that, well, let's see.
Why is it important for them to scan the bottom of the pool?
Because I've heard more often than not, we look down at the bottom of the pool and the child was at the bottom of the pool. And with that in mind, these are very silent events, and when there's a lot of activity going on in the pool, not everybody is paying attention to what goes on. And again, you brought up a very good point in that these events do not happen like they do on television. These events are quiet. The child slips under the water, doesn't struggle, doesn't scream for help. It just doesn't happen that way in real life. And so it's important to keep an eye on the bottom of the pool to see that something hasn't occurred.
So talking about a water watcher, a pool watcher, what is something that you can do, whether or not you have a pool, but you're going to be around a pool, if you have a pool, how can you protect your own family? What can you do besides, you know, like teaching them how to swim or things like that?
Well, without a doubt, teaching your child how to swim at an early age is probably the most important thing of all. Kids love to swim. Kids love the water. We live down here in South Louisiana where it's 100 degrees and 98% humidity half the time. So, I mean, kids just naturally gravitate towards water. And so teaching them to swim at a very early age is probably the most important thing that I can think of to protect them against some type of drowning in their young age.
And how important is it to learn life-saving techniques? So if you're not even the pool watcher, but you see someone at the bottom of the pool, how important is it for you to know what to do next?
It's very important, and then that's one of the things that we try to push hard is to learn CPR and learn how to save that life or to maintain that life until the paramedics can get there and take over for you. That period of time between the time that child is recovered from the pool and the time the paramedics arrive is critical. And so in that particular case, somebody being knowledgeable and knowing CPR is the most important thing.
What are some of the external dangers that might be present that we should all kind of, just like, you know, if your seatbelts are broken on your car, there's a good chance that if you get impacted, you might be injured in an accident. So same goes with a pool or anybody else's pool. What are some of the things you should definitely keep up and maintain and check on regularly to prevent an unwanted accident that could cause a drowning?
Well, I think that maintaining your pool is very important. Make sure that it's clear, that you can see the bottom of the pool for the reasons we've already discussed. If you have some kind of abandoned property, then that pool needs to be dealt with. It can't be just sitting there with stagnant water in it in a community where anybody could get into it, including children. But primarily, one of the problems that we've had in the past is drainage. The drains in the pool, and especially the drains in the hot tub, which is the return drains. There's a high amount of suction in those drains to pull that water back into the filtering system.
Right.
Back in the early 80s, there was a little girl named Virginia Graham Baker, and Virginia was a fairly accomplished swimmer. She was on the swim team at school, and she really kind of knew what she was doing. And but she got into a hot tub and either got her clothing or her hair got stuck in the suction drain, and it pulled her underneath and entrapped her under the water, so she could not get her head above water, and she consequently drowned as a result of that. So now, as a result, all drains that are put into swimming pools and hot tubs have to be Virginia Graham Baker approved by law here. So,
and how long, about how old, how far does that go back, I guess?
I think it was 2008 is when that law actually passed. But I would sure go back if my pool is 10 years old, and I'd like somebody to come look at it to make sure that my suction devices are actually compliant with that law.
Right.
I think that's very important to remember.
So I guess overall it's very important to understand that even though it may be cold outside, your pool still is open and available.
Absolutely.
And it's crucially important to have barriers.
Very much
several layers of barriers to teach our children how to swim, to make people aware that they must be cognizant, especially in a crowded situation, that we need to watch the kids, learn CPR. And then we talked about keeping the pool maintained and making sure our drains are up to date. What is, as part of your educational outreach, what are some other things you'd just like to touch on?
Well, I think it's real important. I'd like to get out to the community that at our coroner's office, we do a lot more than, I think that it would be safe to say that the average person considers the coroner's office, and what do they think when they hear the word coroner's office is that we come out and we respond to deaths.
Right.
And we in fact do that. We come out, we investigate deaths. Our pathology department and our pathologists are responsible for determining the cause and the manner of death, whether manner being suicide, homicide, natural, accidental, or undetermined, and then the cause of death being drowning versus a heart attack or that type of thing. So traditionally that's our role, but we go far beyond that at the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office. Dr. Preston has a vision. And we have the only DNA lab that's housed inside of a coroner's office in the state of Louisiana.
Wow.
So we're very proud of that. And the reason we're very proud of that is that we make this a safer community. Mm-hmm. Our scientists that are in the DNA lab, they work hand in hand with law enforcement here in St. Tammany Parish, and they take some pretty bad characters off the street. Some sexual predators, some very bad, dangerous criminals, even burglars and petty crimes are solved with DNA now these days. And so it's very important. Part of our operation right now, and we're very pleased and very proud of that part of our operation and what we give back to the parish. I think the other thing that we tend to do a lot is mental health. We have a significant role. This is the only state in the United States where the coroner is actually responsible for issuing orders of protective custody. And that's something that we do quite frequently here in St. Tammany Parish. So we're issuing orders for protective custody to protect people in the community as well as the people who are mentally ill. We do a lot of that. We issue, I want to say somewhere around 450 CECs, or I'm sorry, not CECs, orders for protective custody per year. So
and that kind of builds a relationship with a lot of other first responders in the mental health community in St. Tammany.
It does.
And probably around the region as well.
And we have playing a significant part and have a partnership with the new Safe Haven program,
yes.
which is going on down at the old Southeastern Hospital, mm-hmm. which we're very proud to be participants in that community organization. So that's very interesting. We also do a lot of this outreach, and we're developing a lot more programs that are what I consider to be life safety initiatives. Mm-hmm. Pool safety is just one of them. One of the things that Dr. Preston and I have been working on in the recent time is is a program that's related to safe sleep for children. It's called Cribs for Kids, and so that's something that we're going to be rolling out here in the next few months. It's going to be hopefully very successful in decreasing the amount of infant deaths that we have here in our parish.
And you also mentioned that there's a new sexual assault nursing kind of staff. Can you tell me about that?
We have two full-time RNs who are certified SANE nurses or sexual assault examiners, and they handle all the sexual assault cases in St. Tammany Parish, and additionally they handle some of the regional hospitals as well. Mm-hmm. So we respond to those cases and provide not only the medical examination and evidence collection for sexual assault cases, but a lot of comforting and guidance to the victims of sexual assault as well.
And that's very important because that's not like every other case, like every other crime. So it takes a particular expertise to collect that evidence. Is that fair to say?
Correct. Oh, that's very fair to say. Yeah, it absolutely takes a particular bit of expertise. And you know, when you get these ladies that are our nurses working hand in hand with the DNA lab and with the law enforcement community, that's where we get these characters off the street that are very dangerous sexual predators.
Strong cases are built then.
They build very strong cases, and it's a very cohesive network of people that work very closely together with the DA's office and the law enforcement and our office, and we're very proud of that. And
we also talked briefly about the chaplain corps. Yeah. That is as part of the coroner's office. So tell us about that aspect of it.
What an awesome program. Dr. Preston a few years ago set up, kind of recruited a big cadre of clergy members from throughout the St. Tammany area, from both sides, the east and the west side. Mm-hmm. And they really represent different denominations. They represent different views. They all are extremely well versed in dealing with people and counseling people, and they come out and they help us directly on the death scenes, and so we're very, very, very pleased to have them help us. They're a great help to us, and it's been a really, really successful program.
So okay, well I'm certain that these are all aspects of the coroner's office that I'm certain a lot of people are not aware of, and it really adds depth to the definition of our coroner's office.
Right. And,
so
we're very dedicated. The community here has been very kind and very supportive of us, and given us the tools that we need to do this job. You know, the DNA lab was an initiative, a millage that was passed by the community, and we've taken that money, and I think we're definitely making a safer community for you and your loved ones to live in because of that.
So let's kind of wrap it up, and you can tell me, is there anything else you want to add about pool safety? The bulk of what we discussed was pool safety. Is there anything else you want to add just as a final message?
Well, I think if you go out, take a look at your pool and do an objective overview of what your pool, the safety things that we've talked about, the barriers around your pool, check and see if those drains are compliant with the Virginia Graham-Baker Act. Ask your pool folks if they can come kind of help you get that together. Invest in your pool, invest in the safety aspect of your pool. It's, you know, I don't like to equate it to anything to having a gun, but it's something that's dangerous, and it needs to be taken care of, and a gun needs to be locked up and away from people. And the same thing goes with your pool, is you need to make sure that take every effort you can to make that a safe place, a safe environment for your family and friends.
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming out here and sharing with us your experience and your expertise. And we just want to thank you for joining us, and you come back anytime.
I hope so. I hope we'll have some more initiatives that are coming out pretty soon, and I'd love to come back and share those things with you. You know, as investigators, I think we all go out on these tragic deaths, and we can't help but to think to ourselves on our way home, you know, what could I have done to prevent this, or what could have been done to prevent this? And again, we never have the good outcome like some of the other first responders. Right. So this is a really good way for us to get out in the community and help try to prevent these things, and you know, feel good about the work that we do.
Well, we really appreciate it. So
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Man, thanks for having us. I really appreciate it.
Great. And thank all of you for joining us. That concludes our In the Know.